Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the strange news. Blinding flash over Kyiv was probably a meteor, says the Ukrainian Space Agency. Officials in Kyiv initially suspected it was a NASA satellite falling to Earth, but the U.S. Space Agency told the BBC it was still in orbit. Ukrainian space officials later said the flash probably had come from a meteor entering the atmosphere. The Air Force was confident it was not a Russian air attack, an event all too familiar since the invasion last year. Ukraine's space agency said it was probably related to a cosmic body entering the atmosphere. So they say. I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. If you're not watching us live on YouTube, you're missing a lot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a Night Dreamer. From Paul Wallace, author of the best-selling trilogy Escaping from Eden, The Scars of Eden, and Echoes of Eden, comes The Eden Conspiracy, Ancient Memories of E.T. Contact and the Bible Before God. The Eden Conspiracy explores evidence of ancient E.T. contact in the Bible's deep past, along with forgotten secrets about human progress, political power, emotional intelligence, and human potential. The Eden Conspiracy will take you around the world, from Australia to Brazil, Guatemala, Mexico, Ghana, Kenya, Italy, Scotland, England, Israel, Palestine, and ancient Sumeria. Archaeological sites in the Levant reveal clues of ancient experiences of close encounters. Meet with world-class scholars and senior figures in military intelligence whose privileged information concerns the hidden layers of covert government in the deep past and in the present day. What was the Bible before it became a book about God? What was it our ancestors wanted us to know? Can we recover their wisdom and build a better future? Why was this layer of information translated out of the Bible? Who made the changes, and with what agenda? And what does any of this have to do with ETs? Eric von Daniken, author of Chariots of the Gods, says, quote, Paul Wallace is one of my best colleagues. Paul has a way of speaking that everyone can understand. I have full respect for him. Get your copy of The Eden Conspiracy by Paul Wallace. Available now at Amazon in paperback or on Kindle. And leave a review to join the conversation. The Eden Conspiracy. Once again, coming to you live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios, it's Gary Anderson and friends.
And our own astronauts, who were all highly commissioned officers, were not told. And when they got to the moon, not only did they find that there were extraterrestrial activity, but there was also activity from our own planet.
Gary guarantees you get all the inside info, unlike our astronauts.
They were not told and not informed, and all of this is kept under wraps. And that's a good reason why we didn't go back to the moon after Apollo 17, and that is because we did not want more seeing eyes to possibly expose already what had been exposed so much.
Okay, well, here's a man who loves exposure. Gary Anderson!
And that is me. We made it to Friday. I can't believe it. It's the, 28th of the month. I hope everybody had a good day, stayed out of trouble. And like JC there, if you look at him on the camera right now, he looks like I'm bored. Are you bored?
No, I'm not bored. I get a kick out of that Guy Ticker. Matter of fact, he's got some good stuff.
Oh, yeah, he does. Well, we got great, our show's good. So we have great talent doing all the intros and stuff.
That's true. And I'll tell you what, we've got two great guests tonight, too.
Oh, yeah. Before I bring them on, I want to talk again about my encounter. I'm sure all the regulars are going to go, okay, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee right now while he's doing it. Here's the thing. Back in 1974, I had a job in New Bern, North Carolina. I didn't like it. My wife was threatening me if we didn't move back to Seattle, she was going to divorce me. And boy, that was a hard decision right there. Anyway, I drove back, and we were getting into the desert of New Mexico. It was about 1-ish in the morning. That I do remember. And we're cruising in this GTO I picked up. And man, did it go fast. I like that car actually better than my first wife. Anyway, so we're cruising, and all of a sudden, the whole car lights up inside and all around the car to the point you couldn't even see the road. I pull off the side of the road because I think, okay, I know I was doing well over 100. Why wouldn't I? I was in a GTO. I pull off the side of the road. I open the door and I couldn't see anything except this bright light. It was so intense, it was hurting my eyes. And I looked up in the sky, and it was just, you couldn't see it. It's like if you were like 20 miles away from the sun. That's how bright it was. And what I didn't notice was any sounds. Here we are in the desert. There's no sounds at night, no coyotes, no nothing. Totally dead. And the next thing, poof, it was gone. By the way, I didn't hear the helicopter beater going. Nothing. Yeah, that's how quiet it was. And JC, you need one of those experiences, and that'll turn your life around.
I know. Geez, thank you for looking out for me there, but I'm good. I'm good with that. I've seen one in 2019 in broad daylight, the old Tic Tac, and that was good enough for me.
Could you imagine? I know you well enough. You would have had to have, after that, you would have to start wearing Depends, wouldn't you?
Well, that depends on the situation.
Well, I sure wish I would have had someone that night.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, did I believe it was a UFO? I tell you what, my wife at the time was like staring out the passenger window of the door, looking at the sky, and every little light she saw, oh, God, it's following us. And, I'll be honest with you, it was the second most scariest thing.
Yeah, listen, I can be. Now, looking back, did you either one of you have any missing time, I wonder?
How would I know?
Well, it'd be missing.
Well, how would I know? I didn't wear a watch. I didn't have a clock on the the GTO that worked.
Gotcha.
Now, how would you know if you had missing time? That time I was looking at the bright light, it could have been hours. Or it could have been microseconds. I don't know. Why are you asking me these heavy questions on a Friday night?
It's not that heavy. My goodness. All right, gotcha.
Okay, so you saw this thing up by a telephone pole up in the sky, right? It looked like a flying cigar.
I'm telling you, it looked like that when they recreated what them pilots saw, that white that's exactly what I saw. No wings, exhaust, or fuselage or anything.
Why don't we shoot one of these things down and show there's proof? The same way we need to off a Bigfoot to have proof that they exist, because we have never had any proof. We need to have proof on this because, disclosure, as we talked about, is a bunch of BS. This last week, it's going to be major disclosure. Everybody, including Steve Bassett, was sending me all these. It's going to be major disclosure. Basically, they said there's no such thing as off-world craft.
Yeah, I can remember Stanton Friedman way back, I think early 70s, saying basically the same thing until he finally realized it's not going to happen.
Oh, yeah. You remember him in that movie, with his pipe at the end of the movie?
Yeah. That was a while ago.
Well, no, it was last week.
That was a while
Where
ago.
have you been this past week? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember one you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to have fun tonight, aren't we?
We are. I got to tell you something. They've got some kind of mind-blowing things they've seen, filmed, and researched. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me kick these on. And let's bring on Rob first. Are you there, Rob?
I'm here. Thanks for having me on the show, you guys.
What got you interested in ufology, UFOs, ETs?
Well, it was back in 1966. I was in Scouts, and it was the year that they were having this big flap in the Michigan area, Detroit and different places. Now, I lived in Sarnia, Ontario. That's just an hour from Detroit, only on the Canadian side. And I was just in Scouts. It was a Monday night. It was March 28th, I believe, 1966. And I had come out of Scouts. I looked up, and I saw this light in the sky. And these boys that were playing said, "Hey, mister, is that a helicopter?" And I looked at this light in the sky, and Sarnia is right on the border. It's on the St. Clair River, just, Lake Huron there at the bottom, and right across from Port Huron, Michigan, USA. And I said to the guys, "That's not a helicopter. There's no sound." And once again, like you, Gary, I didn't hear any blades at all. I didn't see any blades. I didn't hear any blades. And then the kids left. I'm watching this thing, and it's going slowly from the north to the south, maybe, I don't know, 900 or 1,000 feet. And each time it changed direction, it changed it in a split second. And I thought, well, that's impossible. Anything that I know, like a plane or helicopter, has to come to a stop and go back the other way, or, at least do a banking turn and then go in the reverse direction. So I could feel the hair on my arms kind of go up. And each time it changed direction, it was getting lower and lower until it was up at about maybe 600 feet above me. And at that point, I could see this bright light in the bottom. And kind of really straining my eyes to look, I could see what were almost like figures moving behind this light, or I thought maybe a lens. I thought maybe the light was coming from inside the craft, and these shadows I could see. These were figures moving around and kind of blocking the light. And and I was really thinking, what's going to happen? Am I going to get taken away or something? And just then my mom showed up. She says, "Come on, Rob, we got to go home. Scouts was done. This is like 9:30 at night on a Monday night." And I said, "Mom, you got to get out of the car. There's a UFO up in the sky." And she just laughed at me and said, "Don't be silly." And by the time I got her up out of the car, we looked up and it was gone. And the car was pretty quiet going back to the house. And the next day, when I got home from school, there was a big article in the paper. It was all over the front of the Sarnia Observer. And she showed it to me. She read it to me. It said on the second page how the Selfridge Air Force Base, just south of Port Huron, Michigan, they had sent up 2 fighters after this thing, and it just took off and left them in the dust. So the cool thing was right from day one, I wasn't afraid to talk about these things because what I had seen was validated in the paper the next day. Over 200 people saw it. And, a couple weeks later, I went on the roof of my house with a friend, and we saw, only this time it was like hundreds of lights that went from the north all the way to the south. And 30 seconds later, they all came back again. And, many years later, I told these stories when we were on a filming set. And it was my friend Mark, who's with us tonight. And we were doing a film, and it was during a period when all the actors were doing their practicing, and it came up about UFOs. I told the stories. Mark intently listened. And Mark, I guess you could carry it from there if you like.
Well, first, before we go there, Mark, I want to ask you, is this what got you into UFOs, or were you interested in that before that?
No, honestly, first of all, Gary, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be on your show. And, it was meeting Rob, I think I was 9 years old when I watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and I remember the effect that it had on me. I remember the emotion of the story, and that took, that took a place in my heart. And when Rob was telling me these stories while we were making a film, it really got to me. I was like, all I could see in my mind, being a filmmaker, storyteller, what I saw in my mind were 2 little boys, 12, 13 years old, going up, and to have Rob describe it, to going up an antenna, those towers, those little antenna towers that are.
I've been up a couple of them in my young days.
Perfect, Gary, perfect. Going up those antenna towers to a single story roof, and Rob had a little makeshift sky watching kit. He had a compass and a pad of paper, and I saw it in my mind, Gary. I saw it. I got this visual in my mind when he told me the first story. I liked it. It was engaging. It was like, oh, wow. And of course, it was completely validated, as Rob mentioned. It was in the paper. There had been hundreds of witnesses for over a 2-week period of time who had seen these different objects in the area. They even brought in Dr. J. Allen Hynek to do an investigation of this flap of UFOs. So that was interesting. But what got my heart going was Rob telling me the story about going onto the rooftop with his friend with the intention of making contact. So these boys wanted to make contact. They had the full the full emotional connection to wanting to make contact and then having an experience.
Now wait a minute. I got to ask you, Rob.
Sure.
You were how old when you went on that roof?
It was 12 years old, Gary.
Okay. Did you watch when you were young a lot of these B movies about UFOs and aliens and monsters?
Actually, like any other kid, we did watch some of these science fiction movies, of course. Star Trek was big at that time and, shows like that. So for sure, we did.
You were brave. What would happen if one of them maybe made contact with you? You might not be here right now. We don't know what could have happened to you. I mean,
it's a good point. It's a good point, Rob.
Yeah.
Well, and that's true. And that's why I was getting nervous when my mom wasn't showing up to pick me up. And this thing was getting closer and closer to me, and she kind of saved my butt for sure.
You could have been zapped.
Yeah. Well, or taken away,
Oh, no. At 9 or 12 years old, you would have been prime meat. You know what they would have done in the galley of that UFO? They would have had a barbecue with Hunt's barbecue sauce.
Well, maybe.
I'm sorry about that. I just got carried away.
But, for us, for me, Gary, in the end, it was 50 years later that Rob revisited this, that he told me this, and it was 50 years ago for him at that time. And it still piqued my interest enough to make me do a bit of research and to find different people in different countries all over the world. And that's what started our journey, because it was me coming back to him and saying, do you want to make contact? And he was like, do you think this is possible? And I said, well, there are groups of people all over the world that are attempting it, in the deserts and all these different places. So we went for it. We said, okay, this is a mission. We're going to go for it.
And I'm not going to even ask you, Bigfoot hunters go out there. A lot of them have protection, like bear spray. What do you have? UFO spray? I mean, when you go out there looking for this stuff, have you ever been scared? Now, be honest. Have you ever both been scared going out looking for something and, maybe it kind of scared you?
I guess the only time we were scared that I can remember, and maybe Mark can speak also, was when we saw this light on a mountain in Peru, and we went up this gravel road in our SUV, and these lights came at us, and these guys jumped out with guns pointing up at us, pointing at us. That's when we were scared. We've never been scared for the ETs. It's more of the human beings. Gary, we almost came in on a drug bust. And these guys were Peruvian federal agents, and they thought we were involved with these guys that they were busting up on this mountain road. And that's the only time we've been scared.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had UFO blinders on, when you're so excited and you're just trying to get to places and you see lights and you just you definitely put caution to the wind and you say, okay, we're going to go for it. That was a scary night.
What places have what countries have you gone looking for UFOs?
Oh gosh, Rob. Well, we're at 17 now.
Wow.
We are at 17 countries. We're expanding that. We'll hit 19 or 20 this summer because we have 5 countries that we're going to this summer. But we've been everywhere. We've been throughout North America, obviously, down to Mount Shasta and different places like that, Joshua Tree. And then we did Europe. We did a European tour, if you will, and we went to England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. Had a pretty incredible sighting off the Irish Sea. Australia, we went to Australia twice. We've been to Peru twice, and Norway, I think 4 times for Rob. We've been really, it's been a grateful journey because we have had the opportunity to meet with experiencers and scientists. So it's kind of and honestly, even people that are into consciousness and, the spiritual. So we've spiritual, scientific, and the whole gamut. It's been quite a ride.
Again, I've had some people on the show in the past. I had this psychiatrist, believe it or not, claimed that there was 1 million cloaked UFOs protecting our Earth.
Well, I will say that we have had the opportunity, Gary, to have a one-on-one conversation with the late Minister of Defense of Canada, Paul Hellyer. And during that interview, I think he was around 91 or 92 years of age at that time. So when you talk about races of extraterrestrial or different different things out there, he didn't even realize it. He was talking, and then he started to talk about how he had documentation in front of him of 53 different races of extraterrestrial, from generals and different people and different government officials and different levels of government. And then he looked at the camera and said, "I think I'm talking too much." Because he knew, he had that understanding in his mind that, okay, well, wait a minute, I guess I am kind of saying a little bit too much. But this is a minister of defense who has nothing to really gain other than the fact that at that age, at that point in his life, he's sharing information. He wants to share information. He wants to at least get it on record. And that's kind of something Rob and I are proud of, that we archive those kind of things.
Wow, have you guys thought of going to Vietnam? Because when I was in Vietnam, I didn't see any UFOs in Vietnam, but I'll tell you what, a lot of people I knew and came in contact with, we'd be sitting at night eating what left over from rations from the Korean War. I tell you how horrible it was. And, some of them would start talking about, they were out in the rice paddies, and all of a sudden overhead, a UFO was over them.
Well, honestly, Gary, they do say that war zones is a magnet for UFOs. I mean, there's been lots of stuff seen in the skies in Ukraine over the last year. Some of it's been on the news, and just about every hotspot where there's a flashpoint of war, there's UFOs. Now, are they just observing? What are they doing?
I don't know, but I tell you, it was scary. And, there's a rumor, I haven't been able to prove it, but there was, a boat going up the, one of the rivers, and they encountered a UFO, and they fired at it. And the UFO, everything they fired at it came back down at them.
Well, I guess, if they're from, if they're ahead of us in thousands of years with their technology, they can do just about anything. I mean, they probably just are laughing at the kind of armaments we have. I mean, I'm sure they're not afraid in the least at anything we might fire at them.
Well, I don't think we'd have anything really to protect ourselves. I mean, the technology to get here, they're so far advanced from us. I mean, what we have is like bull and strings.
Exactly. And look at how, these stories in the Midwest, how, and this is stuff that's been, officially documented, how they've shut down the nuclear silos. They've opened them, and then they've shut them down, these UFOs that were overhead. This is stuff that's documented. So they can do whatever they want.
Well, again, you have to realize it's documented, but if you listen to the Congress and all these, meetings going on about it. You know, it never happened. You know, that's what I get frustrated at. You know, they said Roswell never happened. There's no proof of Roswell. There's never been any proof of contact with a UFO. And yet, I mean, people can see it, you know, unless we have technology far advanced. But that doesn't make logical sense, because if we have technology that far advanced, why don't we use it?
Well, I know. And this is why, you know, Mark and I, we wanted to go out and just get our own proof. We wanted to experience this stuff for ourselves because, you know, all of these hearings and everything else, they don't exactly tell the truth. And it's like, what is the truth? Well, this is why we're out there in the field, you know, meeting experiencers. And I have all this video and camera photography equipment, you know, infrared, full spectrum, thermal, night vision, you name it. And we're trying to experience this stuff for ourselves, and we have. So, and we're trying to share it with other people because, you know, the government doesn't seem to be that motivated to share this themselves.
No, why would they? How could they? They have been lying. They have been lying since Roswell. And they have lied even when the one supposedly had gone over the White House in the 50s, early 50s. They have repeatedly lied. And like anything, if you lie long enough, how do you come clean 50, 60 years later and say, oh, by the way, we lied to you about the whole thing? Because then people are going to wonder, well, gee, they admitted they lied about that. How about everything else?
Well, I know. And, you know, some of the guys that they hire to bring into these hearings are fairly newly briefed people. Like, they don't even seem to know the history of anything. I mean, I've watched some of those hearings and some of the questions that they're asked, and these guys are totally ignorant. They have no clue, and they're just parading them in front of these hearings. And I mean, it's ridiculous, really.
It's a whitewash. That's just my thing. What do you think about the Space Force?
Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. You know, here's the thing. There is so much stuff on the internet, and once again, some may be true, some not. Mark and I are so fed up with all the BS that you can see and read about on the internet that we just want to experience ourselves. So, you know, it may be true. Maybe you have more information than we do on it. I don't know.
Well, and I will say this too,
I just
Rob.
don't know what to say.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, Rob and Gary, it's you know, the information, you know, that is dispersed in North America is not the same as it is in other parts of the world. I mean, we have sat across from a general in Peru who has said, do you want to come down to my offices? I have documentation, I have pictures, I have video. And we look at this man who tells us he's in his, you know, mid 70s, and he's telling this very, very intricate, detailed story about sending up aviation to engage with these craft. And he's saying to us in an interview in a very casual setting, I'll take you down to my office and I'll open up my filing cabinet. And we're saying to him, are you serious? Like, you're seriously going to do that? Yeah, we don't have anything to hide. So there to me is where the polarization happens in this topic. You know, you have people that keep it to themselves and don't share that information out. And then you have people, like we have had these conversations with people in South America, whether it be government officials or army or civilians, who are very open, and to talk to them about a ball of light, like the only example that quickly comes to my mind in a short story is being on the beaches of Playa Yaya and walking up to two guys, just painting a house on the beach and talking to them. They don't have anything to gain from giving us that story other than saying, yeah, we were here and a light came out of the water and it lit up the mountain and it lit up the boats, and these are just two normal people doing a normal day's work telling us this story, because in South America and other parts of the world, this is not a big secret. It's just not.
Okay, guys, we need to take a break. It's going to be about 3 minutes long. When we come back, I got a lot of questions to ask you, like what type of gear you use, how do you set up, and all that stuff, for in case anybody else wants to try to get these type of images and video and all that. So stay tuned. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
I'm losing my mind for the sake of love. I've been trying to reveal it, what I've been so afraid of. Your coldness makes my heart go weak, so numb that I can barely speak. This pain keeps water in the sea. If I weren't so desperate to be free, I'd keep my distance, babe. The more that I know about you, the more that I want you, baby. They say that good love will yield the best from me. I know it to be true. This moment won't last forever.
The 9th Annual Contact in the Desert Conference happens the weekend of June 2nd at the beautiful Renaissance Resort near Palm Springs, California. Join me, George Norrie, to discover what's next from speakers such as Graham Hancock, Richard Dolan, Nick Pope, Stephen Bassett, and over 50 other top researchers. Come make contact with new friends and discover the latest fascinating information from the fields of UFO studies, artificial intelligence, psychic phenomenon, and more. Reserve your seat now at contactinthedesert.com.
Coming to you live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's gonna get bumpy.
Well, I have a source high up in SETI that confirms to me that they, in fact, have received interplanetary signals.
It's Gary Anderson, the one and only inside info impresario.
Not normal array. It was kind of a pulsed array, and that it was kept secret and covered up. The SETI people are furious.
And now, get ready to blast off.
The guy who told me that was the founder of the SETI project. A man who had been one of Carl Sagan's best friends, the best man at his wedding.
Of course, because with Gary, there are billions and billions of possibilities. And now, here he is, the one, the only Gary Anderson.
And we are back. And honestly, you don't want another Gary Anderson walking around like me. I'll tell you that. Well, JC, we had some people make some donations, which is really rare on chat. People, you don't have to. I appreciate it. But, I never ask for money. I always think radio should be free. But, JC, who made the donations?
Yeah, big thank you. Big thank you and a shout out to Nancy Malcolm and Rory Beeler tonight for each donating $10. Thank you very much, guys.
And Rory, I saw what you did last night. Shame on you. Well, again, JC, May. I really can't wait to May. That's this next week. The whole month we got people talking about what?
Talking about UFOs, aliens, abductions, and everything related to it.
Yeah. What would you do if you were abducted?
Oh, boy. That's a whole scenario. I'd try to get one. I'd try to fight him probably. I don't know. It depends. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Everywhere I go, I got barbecue sauce. Maybe I could sell it to them and trade it for a UFO. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe they're here to serve man. Maybe you're there to serve them.
Well, we got Rob and we have Mark on the line again. I got to ask you, whichever one of you want to answer this question, equipment. I mean, what type of equipment do you really need to capture, images at night or during the day, really?
Well, yeah. Gary, we started off with very basic stuff, just a Nikon P900 that has 80 times zoom. And we did capture some neat things daytime in Los Angeles up in the sky, even this thing that almost looked like a jellyfish And some people say there are atmospheric creatures, like very gaseous creatures up high in the atmosphere. Don't know. We did capture it with this 83 times zoom during the day, and it went on for about, I don't even know, 15 minutes. That was interesting, but we gradually evolved the equipment. And it was basically, when I didn't capture something, I thought, well, if I'd only had this camera, if I'd only had that one. And we gradually added more equipment. We added, the night vision, the zoom, the full spectrum. And we were in Vancouver area. We had been invited by a friend, a fellow skywatcher, Charles Lamoureux, and we went up to Squamish, BC, out of Vancouver, and we had all the equipment set up. We just had the feeling we were going to see something, and it was in the night vision. And at that time, I didn't actually have the record button pressed all night long on all the equipment. I had it ready to go. I had all my equipment on, and suddenly Breslin, who was with us at that time in our group, she spotted this light. And Squamish, BC, there's this big rock. It's almost like a monolith that just comes straight up out of the ground. And, many things had been spotted around that. And we were at a great spot where we could see that. And suddenly she spotted this light moving. And I was talking to Mark at the time, and I turned to look at the equipment. And, we call it the WMD, Weapon of Mass Detection. And I didn't know which camera I should start running because I could see this light moving. It was very close. It was very bright. And I could see that it was going to go into the woods in just seconds. So I hit the record button on the zoom night vision. And we've got about 10 seconds of this captured. And we call it the Squamish orb. For whatever reason, when you type in that, you won't find it on YouTube, which we find odd. Many people have complained about that. So if anybody wants to see that capture, just go to our YouTube channel, Rob Freeman UFO World Explorer, and then just click on videos and click on most watched. That's the only way you're going to find it on YouTube. And you will see it go across the sky. It's at nighttime, and you will see it go into the woods. And we've had it analyzed by MUFON Canada, by Dave Palachuk. He's the executive director. He used to be the chief investigator. And he's determined that it's an orb, something like 8 to 10 feet in diameter. And we managed to capture it with the night vision equipment. And I wished I had all the other equipment turned on. But, I was watching it in the screen, and I didn't dare take my eyes off the screen and press the other buttons to turn all the other cameras on. But I did capture it with the night vision zoom. And after that experience, I do turn on all the cameras for the entire night so that I'm ready to go. If something else appears, I have it in all the cameras.
Well, that's a really smart move, because a lot of times when even if you're looking for it and it all of a sudden appears, your brain kind of like hesitates for a few seconds, and that's enough time for it to be gone. Now, a question. Now, this is only my theory, and I'm just a talk show host. That means nothing to most people, especially my wife. But here's the thing. Could these orbs be cloaked other things than orbs?
That's a great question.
I will tell you. Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll tell you, our friend Charles Lamoureux was in touch with one of the guys from the European Space Agency, and he talked to him for like a couple years over email. It was kind of on the QT. And Charles asked him finally, he says, what are these orbs? Because Charles, he also has a YouTube channel, Charles Lamoureux, and he captures orbs. He captures a lot of them with his equipment. And he asked this scientist, he says, exactly what are these orbs? He says, are they craft? Are they ETs? He says, what are they? And the guy replied back, and he says, not exactly. He said, they're more like life itself. And, that kind of gave me goosebumps. Like, what does that mean? And I don't know. There's many different interpretations. Many people think that they could be cloaked craft. But many people around the world do see and do capture these orbs on screen with their cameras. I mean, we've got other videos of them as well. And I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've had other experiences like in Australia. I had one, we were at a healing center in the mountains, and we were with a group, and we were just back from the healing center, just up the mountain a little bit. And Marcus and Liz had fallen asleep. The other people in the group were playing with a laser. They were shining it up at the sky. They were connecting dots with the stars. And I happened to look over towards the healing center, and Gary, I watched as this green orb, it was teardrop-shaped orb, came down over the healing center. It was sparkling green, and the center of it was like a golden green, a golden color sparkling. And it lasted about maybe 4 or 5 seconds. It came down over the healing center, and then it was gone. And I looked over at the rest of the group and I said, guys, did you see that? And they say to me, see what? They were looking in a different part of the sky. And I was so mesmerized by what I saw, I didn't say a word. I assumed everybody was watching it. And it was the most amazing thing that I ever saw in my entire life.
It would be.
Go ahead.
I said it would be to see something like that. Again, too, when you're looking at it, you don't even think about, well, hey, are you guys, look over here. You are just focused on it.
Well, yeah. And the next day around the breakfast table, it's interesting. I was talking about this, and they asked me to describe the colors, and they said, this is all about love and forgiveness. And there's more to the story. The night before, we had been given an ET doll, one of these blow-up dolls, and there's probably lots of jokes around that. But the group who we were with, they had all signed it. And they had given us nice messages for going back to Canada with, and everybody wrote little anecdotes on this plastic blow-up doll. And they had it at breakfast. And I came in late to breakfast because I had stayed up late after this happened, and after everybody went to bed, hoping to see more. And I heard them talking about Mozzie. And I came out to the group and I said, Mozzie? And they said, yeah, we've nicknamed this doll Mozzie. And I said, guys, that's my mother's nickname.
Oh, wow.
That we always called my mother. And Mark says, I didn't know that. Mark's been traveling with me for how many years, Mark?
Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, that was, we'd been traveling together for 4 or 5 years doing different projects. And I knew Rob at that level, at that personal level. And we had just literally nicknamed this ET doll, this ET blow-up doll, Mozzie. And Rob came out, and it was something that's so synchronistic. And this is a part of what we do. It's funny. I mean, I'd love to know your feelings on this too, Gary. Is we, in addition to all the lights in the sky, absolutely, there are these lights in the sky, and there's these different things. But after a few years of doing this, we just started to experience ground activity. What we call ground activity, things that would go on in the groups or around us, different things like that. And we termed it cool high strangeness. We were like, okay, this is high strangeness, but it's pretty cool. So we called it cool high strangeness and we made a list. I mean, basically every time something happened that we couldn't explain in relative terms, we said, okay, we're going to write this down because this is interesting. Like, this is a unique set of experiences or a unique set of situations. Very quickly, again, I'm segueing off you there, Rob, a little bit. I apologize, but we went to Scotland. Quick 10-second story. We went to Scotland. We met a gentleman who told us a big story about the Men in Black. Okay, big story, and we filmed it, and it was great, and we went out with him that night. But on the same day we went to have dinner, we parked our car, and in front of us was another car, and the first 3 letters on the license plate was MIB. Now, you can call that, Gary, you can call that anything you want, right? You can say, oh, well, that's a coincidence. Is it? Is it?
Well, you know what? What better way to disguise yourself is saying MIB on your license plate anyway.
Exactly. Like, if you want to communicate, if that's a thing, if we're going to just hypothesize a little bit, if that's a thing, what better way to communicate than maybe to use a license plate? And we haven't only had that happen once. We've had that happen more than once. We've rented cars and we've rented a car and then had to take the car back and rented another car, and the car would have a license plate that would have something on the license plate that connected to our expedition. So when you're getting like CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, CE5 written on our license plate, we've had this happen over 40 times. We have a list. And the list contains over 40 instances that we don't have an explanation for.
That is...
Well, and Gary, coming back, I want to wrap up that around the orb, because you said, what are these orbs, right?
Yeah.
And just to finish off that story, so, my mom, she passed on without us fully resolving things between us. And unfortunately, and I have to say, these two guys that ran this healing center, they told me what I saw was all about healing and forgiveness, love, healing, and forgiveness. So that's what these colors signified in this experience. And they told me that this was my mother's soul, her spirit. And, after this happened, and this unbelievable coincidence that they would name this doll Mozzie, that it came from Aussie, Australia, Aussie, and then into Mozzie, and that would be my mother's nickname that I never disclosed to Mark. And after that, it seemed that this thing between myself and my mom was gone. It was almost like a healing for me. That this experience, that this golden orb, this emerald green orb that I saw with the golden color inside. And by the way, emerald green was my mom's favorite color. And after that, it's like she forgave me, I forgave her. This experience was a healing for me. That's what it really came down to. And so what was that orb? Was it really her spirit, her soul? I don't know. All I know is that we went to that healing center. We were invited just to see UFOs, and it wound up being a healing experience for me.
It sounds like it too. And it took a lot of stuff off of your chest. So it was definitely worth going to it and seeing it. I do want to say one thing. I get a lot of people sending me pictures of orbs all the time. Now, if you are using a camera, okay, and you have your flash going off, and like if it's a small point and shoot digital camera or whatever, you're not getting an orb. You're just getting your iris of your lens, and the light coming off the flash is reflecting back into it. And you wouldn't believe how many people, here's their porch light on. They got a light in their backyard up on a pole, and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of orbs. It's because of the cameras. They're not like the film cameras. So, I don't know if you have encountered any of that.
Yes, I can speak to that. It's true that you can have that happen, especially with these small point and shoot cameras, because the flash of the camera is right next to the lens. Mm-hmm. You can go on Sony's website, and the engineers explain it themselves, and the scientists. You will get the dust reflecting back. But within some of those pictures that people are sending you, Gary, there's probably authentic orbs that they are capturing as well.
Out of the ones I get, I'll be honest with you, Rob, is they send me pictures like weekly. And there's one lady, I'll be honest with you, for the last 2 years, every week I get like 4 or 5 orb pictures. I don't know. That's like the guy goes out in his backyard and sees a Bigfoot each time he goes out. I mean, I wish people would learn how to really use their camera and do research, because, it really damages what we're trying to do with ufology if we get a lot of people And hoaxing. That's another thing. It's not a day it doesn't get by. I get UFO pictures that, somebody who's really good in Photoshop.
Well, Gary, there's unfortunately, the people aren't that technical, and 95% of all the pictures and video are things that are explained. It's that 5% that we're interested in. So, you probably do get the odd photo coming to you that is legitimate, but it is hard to discriminate that from the hundreds and hundreds of other ones of these, flashes of the reflecting dust. But the other big one is, especially with streetlights, you will get what looks like an orb dancing around, and especially with the the smartphones, the cameras in the smartphones, they appear as blue orbs.
Mm-hmm.
But typically that is what we would call a lens flare. And people do hoax it, and they'll take a video and they'll slightly move the camera around in it, and the bright street light causes a lens flare to dance around in your screen exactly opposite side of the middle of the frame of where the bright point source of light is. And then what they'll do is they'll crop the video so that all you see is this orb dancing around. You don't see the bright light source.
Right.
And they try to pass that off. So you're right. Unfortunately, it does taint the whole, all this information that's good, it taints it, So this is another reason why us ourselves are going out in the field with, very expensive photography and video equipment. I mean, heck, we even took a radar with us, digital radar with us, and set it up in Australia. We've spent a lot of money and spending a lot of time because, I did get those two legitimate things happen as a kid, and I myself have always questioned, was it real? Was it something the government had? So we are trying to experience for ourselves. We want to get the proof for ourselves and share it to others, and things that we get, we try to beat up and debunk. People really don't like that we do that because they'll fight with us and say it's legitimate. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I am a ufologist that's trying to get proof, but I don't believe this thing that we caught is proof. And they will get quite upset at us that we're trying to debunk it. But, if you're going to go to all these countries and go on all these expeditions and you're going to capture stuff, I mean, I want, in the end, for it to be legitimate. I don't want to be called somebody that's just hoaxing or, photoshopping things, because we don't do that. We do the opposite. We try to capture legitimate stuff. We try to debunk it. We go to scientists. We go to different professional organizations. And if in the end it's legitimate, great. If it's not, we're okay with that. I mean, Mark, in the film industry, he calls it killing babies, when he
that's a horrible term, Rob. That's a horrible term. But Rob is right. I mean, the one thing that we try to do, Gary, and I'll say this in this kind of way, just for the listeners who really understand the UFO field, we had the opportunity to do a couple of interviews with Jacques Vallée. Now, everybody knows who Jacques Vallée is, and Jacques Vallée and Dr. Hynek, they were like, equal part researcher and equal part scientist. And that's what Rob and I are trying to do. We are not only in the field with state-of-the-art equipment, and I guess this is kind of a bit of a plug, but we're very proud of it. It's been 8 years for us. So it's like there's equal parts technology and getting the evidence, but like Jacques Vallée always says, evidence can only take you so far. You have to have your witnesses. You have to have your witnesses. You have to have those people with you or a part of the experience that can talk about the experience. And the thing that Rob and I have had, and we're both very grateful for this, is that we have been to the tops of Marcahuasi, like at 14,000 feet in the valleys of Peru, talking to the villagers, talking to people in their kitchens while they're cutting up food and giving ice cream to children, talking about what they've experienced. And we've been in the deserts, and we've been to these different places because, and I did mention this, to your producer, that the thing for us is, when a craft shows up or extraterrestrials appear, it's not usually in a big city setting. I mean, Rob and I have spent probably 90%, 95, if not more percent of our time in the field, 5,000 hours.
Wow.
We've been in the field, and we take a lot of pride in that. That's a very big deal for us, because we're thinking to ourselves, not only do we want to experience, but we want to inspire, and we want to educate, and we want to create an archive of material. And this is and I mean this with all respect to Rob, this is at cost to Rob. This is his personal passion, and he wants to take what he experienced when he was 12 and pull it all the way through and hand it to the next generation. So it's a combination of technology and research and history and stories that keeps us moving forward.
Well, hey, Mark and Rob, we're out of time. Again, why don't you, if you have a website, all this stuff, anything you want to share, go ahead and share it.
I'm going to pitch here, Rob. I'm going to. We're very excited. Actually, even just promoting the fact that this is something Rob doesn't even know. Even promoting the fact that we were going to be on your show over the last little while, we've had over 1,000 new followers come to our page, which is amazing. And so it's Facebook, obviously, it's UFO World Explorer. It's the YouTube channel, UFO World Explorer. But it's also two other initiatives that we have. One is Encounters, and we're very excited. Quick pitch. We're going to Colombia. It starts very, very soon in May, and we're doing Encounters Colombia, and we're going to have the opportunity to be there and to be to all the best hot spots and meet all kinds of incredible people there. And we also have Worlds Within Our World. And so all of these YouTube channels are in place, and all of the social media is in place for anyone who would like to. I think there's over 350 videos on the UFO World Explorer channel. So there's a lot of hours of material there. Again,
do you have a website?
It's really done through the social media, Gary.
Okay.
Like it's really done through Facebook and YouTube. YouTube primarily. I mean, we're really excited about the channel. If people want to see the latest, there's a video that comes out every week of some place in the world that we've been. And we're excited because we're in 5 countries over 5 months this summer. And we're going to be throughout Europe and Italy and Colombia and beyond. So a lot of new material is coming to the channel.
Well, guys, I want to offer this to you. A month of May, we're doing every show about UFOs and abductees and the strangeness of it. And while you guys are out in May, get a hold of our producer if you want, and we can bring you on for 10 minutes and you can tell us what's going on and where you're at.
We'll do it from Colombia. That would be exciting.
Yeah. Get a hold of JC on that. We'll set that up, guys. I want to appreciate both of you guys coming from Canada. And, it's really interesting. I'm going to check out your YouTube page right after the show, because I'll tell you what, there is life out there and people are naive. A lot of people think, we're the only intelligence. There's galaxies they're finding every week. If you go in the news and science journals, we found another galaxy. And you think about that. I mean, we can't be the only intelligent life. In fact, we might be on the low end of the intelligent, and they might be on the other end. Guys, be safe, will you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gary, for having us on your show. We appreciate that.
Yeah, very much. It was a privilege, Gary. Thank you.
Okay, guys, you take care.
Take care.
Well, JC.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah. How's your feeling? I mean, about orbs and stuff. I don't know. I don't buy people are going to get mad. I don't buy the spirit in.
Well, let me tell you, listen, people get mad about it, but in my world, I can tell you, that's all I can tell you. Orbs, you can see real orbs with your eyes, because I'm going to tell you something. Humidity, dust, bugs, you name it, will fool you big time. But if you can see it with your eyes, and I've seen them, they undulate, and I've got them on video. I've seen them, but they're rare, maybe less than 10 and 40 years. So
yeah, but here's my thinking though: how do we know that they're not ET life or probes?
Right.
Cloaked as an orb, or that's what we see them as. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, we are being visited. I mean, I'm sure my departed mother-in-law is turned into an ET.
Yeah, sounds like it. But yeah, I agree with you. Hey, listen, think about it. When we go to places, we send out, what do you call, probes or whatever. That couldn't that be an alien probe? You send, it looks like an orb, and collects data.
Yeah. Well, that's what maybe they're doing to us. I mean, come on. If they want a good show, they can watch what we're doing on this planet. Well, who's our guest next Wednesday?
Oh, we've got Paul Wallace coming back on. He's got a new book out, fantastic. Probably heard the commercial on our show, but he's going to be talking about that. How the ancient people confused maybe gods with ETs. That's next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. And how about Thursday?
We got Daryl Sims coming back on, the alien hunter. So he's always good info when he's on.
Well, you know what? I was shocked about the rating of the show. Do you have that where you can pull it up real quick on your...
Which one?
The one where we're at nationally, worldwide.
Oh, yeah. Actually, hold on. I believe it was, just to make sure I get it right here, because I just believe I saved that too. Okay, where's it? It was. Well, that's not it.
It should be on your.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Actually, we're in the top 5% out of all podcasts.
Yeah, out of hundreds of thousands of podcasts, we are at 5%, and we're at
top 5.
Yeah, and we're rated at number 32. Now this is taking all the apps worldwide and combined.
Yes.
Why aren't we driving Porsches?
I don't know.
Well, I guess I spend all the money in the studio. That's what my wife says anyway.
She wouldn't say that.
No. So I tell you, it was an exciting show tonight. I really enjoyed what they had to say. I wanted to ask them when they're like all these different countries, at night, aren't they worried about snakes and spiders and all that stuff and bandits and all that stuff?
Well, you wouldn't. They've got a lot more. They haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg of their experiences and reports and things they've been through. But you're right. You get out there in Australia, they've got the top 10, I think, deadliest spiders and snakes in the world.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm here where I'm at. Well, to Wednesday, we will catch you on that night at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern time. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, I can't understand on the internet. We are doing so well, but YouTube takes forever. And my friends who are in this business say it takes forever to build up, viewers. But I really would like to see YouTube with millions and millions of viewers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with you. It doesn't match the rest of it, but yes.
Yeah. So out there, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're listening to the show tonight, please do, or I'm going to send Guido over to your house. He's going to knock on your door and have you subscribe to our channel and hit that bell. Well, to next Wednesday, everybody have a good one. We'll catch you on the other side.
Mark your calendar now for June 6th. On that day, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It will be released. This is a film that documents the suppression of viable non-fossil fuel energy sources and provides a blueprint of how we can solve the environmental crisis. For more information, go to this website, www.seriousdisclosure.com. That's www.seriousdisclosure.com.
The 9th Annual Contact in the Desert Conference happens the weekend of June 2nd at the beautiful Renaissance Resort near Palm Springs, California. Join me, George Norrie, to discover what's next from speakers such as Graham Hancock, Richard Dolan, Nick Pope, Stephen Bassett, and over 50 other top researchers. Come make contact with new friends and discover the latest fascinating information from the fields of UFO studies, artificial intelligence, psychic phenomenon, and more. Reserve your seat now at contactinthedesert.com.